Well, the New York Jets did it again. Somehow, some way, this team just keeps doing this to us repeatedly over the last decade, where they get you to a position where you believe and you're bought in and you're all in, and as you start to go ahead and accept the fact that potentially it might go wrong, they just bring you back in. They suck you back in into believing there's light at the end of the tunnel, just to go ahead and let you down again. The New York Jets, since beating the Eagles, are now 1-2. They've successfully lost games against the worst defense in the NFL, and then they struggled the worst rushing defense in the NFL in back-to-back weeks, in which the New York Jets couldn't even scrounge up a touchdown. The offense couldn't give you one touchdown. The last time the Jets scored was the Giants game in the first quarter. Again, mind you, against a team that had no business being in the conversation with the level of talent you have on this Jets roster. But the fact remains, the Jets barely won that game. They lost against the Chargers last week. And then yesterday, they decided to go ahead and smack us a little bit more and lost against the Oakland Raiders, who, by all intents and purposes, are going through it right now. A team, mind you, that has an interim head coach, an interim OC, a rookie fourth-round quarterback, and the worst rushing defense in the NFL. The Jets couldn't get a single score. I'm sorry, the offense couldn't get a single score. Not one. And, you know, I see a lot of stuff going on amongst Jets Nation, the fan base, and we're all upset about this person is to blame or that person is to blame. I'm here to tell you guys, this is not Zach Wilson's fault. This is also not a video about me being a Zach Wilson truther or in support of Zach Wilson as the Jets quarterback. But a lot of the blame is being pointed around, and I just think it's time for me to jump off my high horse here and hold the individual responsible, actually responsible. So why are the Jets right now 4-5 on the outside looking in, when everything was laid out beautifully for them to potentially make a run for the AFC East and, of course, break that playoff drought? Well, let's talk about it.
I can do it all, I will never fall. It's the Renaissance, you know that I got the mother sauce. You know I'm the boss, I know what it costs. Have you won a loss? I'm so versatile, yeah, I'm a Renaissance man. I can do it all, I will never fall. It's the Renaissance, you know that I got the mother sauce. You know I'm the boss, I know what it costs. Have you won a loss? I'm so versatile, yeah, I'm a Renaissance man.
Congratulations, brother.
And here we so Zach Wilson started off hot, beat the Buffalo Bills opening night. Aaron Rodgers goes down with 4 snaps into the Achilles injury, and Zach Wilson did his best interpretation of an NFL starting quarterback and getting the job done week 1. But let's not kid ourselves. This team has been winning games on the back of this defense and on the back of Breece Hall. When those two things operate fully and it can actually get some points on the board, you've seen some things happen that we didn't expect to happen. When those two components don't operate at an elite level, well, unfortunately, we've struggled and we've lost some games we shouldn't have lost. Look, the New York Jets right now offensively, it's the most embarrassing thing I think the majority of us who've watched football for a majority of our lives, I'm going to say at least over the last decade, we've seen put on film. We've seen this team now go 2 games against 2 defenses who are considered worst in either one or the other aspect of an offense. But one was worst passing offense, one was worst rushing. One was worst passing defense, and the other was 31st in rushing defense, passing, rushing, both. And we couldn't score a point. on the offensive side of the ball. Now, special teams did their job, and this is separate from the special teams, and this is separate from, of course, the defense, who've been playing, by all intents and purposes, lights out football. They've been doing their job. In fact, the defense is taking it upon themselves that they need to score points in order for this team to have a chance. But how did we get here? How did we get to this point in 2023 that we're still feeling the same way we did in 2022 after a bye week, where we had no faith and confidence that this team could go ahead and figure it out, because what we originally thought was that we had the wrong offensive coordinator operating our offense. We're doing this again with a different offensive coordinator. There's just no way this is feasible. And yet here we are. You know, it took me a little while because I've been a big fan of this individual. I've been a huge fan of him. I've been very outgoing in regards to what he's done for this franchise, what he's done to rejuvenate the fan base and infuse this team with talent. But unfortunately, at this point, I can't play dumb anymore. I can't go ahead and keep sweeping it under the rug. The New York Jets are in shambles right now. They are 4-5 right now because of one person and one person only. Joe Douglas. Yeah, I'm saying it. Joe Douglas, the man that brought us Garrett Wilson, the man that brought us Breece Hall, Sauce Gardner, the man that created the talent pool that has brought Aaron Rodgers into the building, is the same individual who I am now holding responsible for what we've seen this year in terms of an NFL product, offensively speaking. Now, I know this is probably going to get a lot of backlash. Some of y'all want to blame Zach Wilson. Some of y'all want to blame Coach Saleh. Some of y'all want to blame Hackett. But you know what? I'm going to argue that, because if you're blaming Zach Wilson, first and foremost, that's on you. Zach Wilson has shown us who he is now for 2 years straight. We're not going into the second offensive coordinator for this young man, trying to go ahead and figure out how to make him a better version of himself. And you're going to sit there and tell me, hey, he's played better this year. He's played better this year. Yes. But when you're literally buried underneath the basement and you're now doing well enough to be in the basement of a home, although it is better, it's not what you would call game-changing progress. The kid is not at fault for why we're here. Do you know why? He's already told us who he is. Every single one of us have seen Zach Wilson, and we know what he's about, we know what he's capable of, and we know who he is. He is just showing that to us yet again in year 3. Anyone who wants to go ahead and sit there and say, oh, it's not on the kid, it's on the offensive line, it's on the offensive coordinator. Listen, he is not an NFL starting quarterback. And if you go through my videos, you'll see that I was a very adamant believer in Zach Wilson. But situation dictates, and with situation dictating, now my thought process has changed. The kid just can't get it between the ears. The game's too fast for him. You can sit here and try to argue that fact, but stop for a second and pause with me when I go over some individuals who've shown you they can overcome bad coaching and, dare I say, bad offensive line play and no offensive weapons, to the tune of Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow took the 32nd ranked offensive line to the Super Bowl. Granted, he had Jamar Chase. That helps a little bit. You know, good running game, and Joe Mixon and Giovanni Bernard was also part of that squad. I get it. He has some weapons around him, but I do believe the Jets have talent around them as well in terms of around Zach Wilson. Breece Hall is 10 times, I think. Maybe that's an exaggeration that the fanatic in me come out. But he's twice the running back that freaking Joe Mixon is. I do believe that Giovanni Bernard is the equivalent of a Michael Carter, or perhaps maybe even an Izzy. But let's just say Dalvin Cook, who is a 4-time Pro Bowler, currently on the roster. Nonetheless, there's talent around Zach Wilson, but we're not seeing that talent turn into offense. Just not seeing it. Yes, I get it. There were some penalties that negated some pretty impressive and big plays, but let's go down to what it boils down to. At the end of the game last night, Zach Wilson had an opportunity to go ahead and take the Jets to slide into the second spot in the AFC East, with an opportunity to face off against the Miami Dolphins in a couple of weeks to take the AFC East, first of all. What did he do? He stared down a wide receiver, Alan Lazard, when we were driving down the field and threw the most ridiculous interception I've ever seen when he had 3 other individual options totally open. One of those options, I think, clear as day, Brees Hall could have gotten to the pylon to score a touchdown, but instead he went to the one read he could look at because he was told pre-snap, the target is Alan Lazard. You do that and do nothing else. He went for it. The one interception. Game over. Zach Wilson is not at fault here. Zach Wilson showed us who he is against the Kansas City Chiefs. We've seen him at max capacity. It is good enough to potentially be a backup in the NFL, but dare I say it, it's going to be a low-tier backup. The Jets right now are in this particular predicament because Joe Douglas didn't think it made any sense to go ahead and bring in a competent backup quarterback after Aaron Rodgers went down. Zach Wilson isn't supposed to be out here starting right now. The pure fact that the New York Jets have won 4 games, 2 of them against potential Super Bowl favorites, shows you that this coaching staff, hey, as much as they can frustrate us, is doing what some would say is the impossible. How many teams in the NFL right now win 4 games, one against the reigning second overall champions in the Eagles, right? Once against the Buffalo Bills, who are the 3-time reigning AFC East champions. If not for some good coaching, I'm not putting those wins on Zach. I'm putting those wins on overall team. That's by the coaching staff. When you're winning games that you shouldn't be winning because your backup quarterback is in play, you got to give the coaching staff the props. Now, keep in mind, Zach Wilson is, in fact, that. He is the backup quarterback for the New York Jets, not the starter. This wasn't the game plan. This coaching staff is working with what they have to work with. Zach Wilson was not supposed to see the field again for the next 2 years. Aaron Rodgers was him. Aaron Rodgers is him. In fact, Aaron Rodgers at 40% gets this team behind coaching, defense, and special teams to an 8-1 record. I'll stand on that all day. Aaron Rodgers at 40% with this roster can go ahead and get us to 8-1. Now you're going to say, well, then if you're going to say that, then you can't really blame Joe Douglas. But I can blame Joe Douglas because at the end of the day, we saw the Minnesota Vikings lose Kirk Cousins and give up, what was it, a 5th or a 6th round pick to bring in Josh Dobbs, who has played lights out football and is on a two-game winning streak. A guy who just gets it. He gets it. Now, I don't know if he'll ever be a starter in the NFL, but I know this guy can win games and he's a playmaker. That could have been a benefit and a compliment to a defense like the New York Jets and a special team that the New York Jets have. But unfortunately, we didn't make a move for Josh Dobbs. Why? Because Joe Douglas didn't think it was necessary. You think Coach Saleh right now is really playing Zach Wilson because he believes he is the guy? He's him? You think Coach Saleh and the rest of the coaches are looking to wash this season, knowing that, you know what, next year we get Aaron Rodgers, we just got to go. They're not wanting to do this. Something tells me, and I believe wholeheartedly, Joe Douglas has purposely just said, you know what, we're going to ride with what we have. I'm going to stick to my guns. I drafted that kid. He's what you got. We've got a new OC. We've got better weapons on the offense. Let's go ahead and see what the kid has. Joe Douglas has tanked this season for us. And if you want to blame Saleh, if you want to blame Zach, then that's your prerogative. But in all actuality, Zach Wilson is who we thought he was or is. He's a mid backup quarterback in the NFL. And I say mid as a compliment. At the end of the day, the kid has an amazing arm talent. You know what I'm saying? I would say elite mobility. Oh, no, elite is too much because you got your Lamar Jacksons and I'd say he has great mobility for a quarterback in the NFL. But unfortunately, all that stuff combined with a below average IQ when it comes to the game of football, below average ability to process the field means you're going to get the quality of product we've been seeing for the last 3 years. There's a reason why you've seen individuals like Mike White, Josh Johnson, and Joe Flacco operate in offenses that Zach Wilson were a part of and do 3, 4, 5 times better than Zach Wilson has. Zach Wilson cannot play the NFL version of a quarterback the way we are praying and hoping he would. But I digress. That whole draft class was trash. Let's call it what it is. Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be the next Andrew Luck, and Trevor Lawrence has been average in the NFL. Every other quarterback taken has been below mid and trash. So the draft class was a bust. So I go back to why I'm blaming Joe Douglas, because even the 49ers, being operated by competent general manager, understood he messed up, cut his losses, and moved on. We have yet to do that. Zach Wilson is still the quarterback here. We didn't bring in anybody to really compete as the backup quarterback when we had Aaron Rodgers in the building. Aaron Rodgers at 39 years old, granted, fluke accident that he would lose his Achilles, is still 39 years old playing NFL football. I think that in itself warranted bringing in a couple of good bodies into the building to at least freaking get an idea of what they can bring to the table as a backup. We didn't do that. There were plenty of options that I think right now puts us in a much better situation than what we currently are at. But again, I digress. So then we fast forward to the trading deadline. Josh Dobbs being given away for pennies on the dollar. We didn't make a move. We went with Zach Wilson. We brought in Trevor Siemian and Tim Boyle, I believe. He's just here purely because Aaron Rodgers thinks he's cool. Trevor Siemian, who when you match up the two freaking records in terms of careers at this point, right? I think it's 30 plus games. My boy Mike, the stat guy, showed this to me. Trevor Siemian is literally twice the quarterback that Zach Wilson has been. I don't understand how Joe can sit here and allow this travesty to happen, except for one thing. These guys believe no matter what happens this season, Aaron Rodgers will be the quarterback next year. And because of that, they've got job security. And Joe Douglas, I believe, has done an incredible job for this Jets organization in his tenure in terms of infusing it with talent after having to get rid of non-talented individuals to create a legitimate NFL roster vice the expansion roster we had before he became our GM. But that doesn't negate the fact that he has been criminal, derelict in his duties, and not making sure we had a competent quarterback to sit behind Aaron Rodgers. Zach Wilson should not be playing football right now. Zach Wilson is supposed to be in a complete reset. If y'all remember, he proved to us last year after multiple opportunities to get benched that the NFL was too fast for him. And that we shouldn't be seeing this kid for a couple of years after we got Aaron Rodgers. But here we are. And he's playing the way we know him to have been playing. We expect this. We watch Zach Wilson playing with every throw. We get anxious as a fan base. You think Sada doesn't get anxious every time he throws the ball? Hell, you think Hackett doesn't get anxious every time he throws the ball? Hence why they start off hot and then start to play it safe. This team is playing not to lose games, vice to win games. And unfortunately in the NFL, that's just not going to work. Joe Douglas failed us. And because of his failure, we now have to wonder whether or not an opportunity for us to be AFC East champions, dare I say even make the playoffs, is feasible. Aaron Rodgers was to come back here mid-December. Should he come back mid-December if the New York Jets are 4-8? I don't know. I don't know if that's the way we want to go about it. But what I can say is this. The Jets have given us 4 wins that I just didn't think were feasible after we saw Aaron Rodgers go down. 4-5 right now. We're still very much in the conversation to go ahead and win, get to the playoffs. But the only way we're going to do that is to win the AFC East. I believe the AFC North has approximately 4 teams in it that qualify to be playoff teams. It's frustrating to be here again as a fan base. It's frustrating to be having the same conversations we've had in times past. Just last year, is this team going to finish 7-10 again? Is it time for us to start looking at mock drafts? I'm not going to lie to you. I have started looking at mock drafts. What we witnessed the last couple of games is an embarrassment to the game of football, especially when you're talking about the offensive side of the football. And I just don't know if they're going to get it right. Honestly, I don't even know if they care to get it right, knowing that once Aaron Rodgers went down, this season was in their eyes over. And here we are as a fan base still believing there's a possibility for us to go ahead and at least end the long-standing record of playoff drought. The drought has been very frustrating to me. I don't know. Joe Douglas, as well as he's done for us, quit on us in 2023. We were seeing it literally unfold before our eyes, and as a fan base, we deserve better. The New York Jets roster deserves better. Another year being wasted with an elite defense and a great special teams, and in all actuality, 40% of an Aaron Rodgers could potentially bring this team to an AFC Championship game, which is how good the talent around Zach Wilson truly is. But I digress. At the end of the day, Joe Douglas may have failed us, but as a fan base, we're still going to watch this team and pray. We're going to hope. I'm frustrated. I'm very, very frustrated, but I do believe by the time this weekend comes around, I'll be hopeful again. I'll be positive again. I believe we can go ahead and beat the Bills and then beat the Dolphins and potentially go on a run just in time for us to have Aaron Rodgers come back in mid-December and take us on this miraculous journey that is the playoffs and potentially an AFC Championship appearance. Just had to get this off my chest. I feel like we're blaming the wrong individuals. It's not Coach Saleh. It's not Zach Wilson. Yeah, the drops are horrendous, but it's not even on those bums. CJ Uzama, bum. Freaking the bum Alan Lazard. It's not even on those guys because opportunities were still there at the end of every game in order for us to win them. The common denominator was we had Zach Wilson back there yet again when we all know he shouldn't be. Joe Douglas knows he shouldn't have been. And yet, he ran with it. So, Jody, this is on you. In fact, this season is on you. If the New York Jets decide to go on a spiral, I don't blame my coaches and I don't blame Zach. I don't even blame the lack of discipline these guys have when it comes to not getting unnecessary freaking flags when you're driving down the field. I blame Joe Douglas. He's the culprit. He's why we're here yet again. How much longer can we go ahead and keep tolerating this level of incompetence when it comes to the offensive side of the football? I said it. Go Jets.
Chant, they like to say, it goes something like Jets, 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 Jets.